Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 5 of the Maritime Witch. So today we have our regular segments of the Zodiac and the full moon. That's it. It's late in the day. I'm a little bit tired. And we also, as promised, have an interview today. Before we get started, I would like to publicly apologize to Sean. Our little discussion about whether blueberries were blue or purple. And it was actually funny because a couple of days later, I saw a recipe come up on social media for a purple velvet cake versus your red velvet cake. And it was covered in blackberries, and which I still think are black, but anyways, and blueberries, and it was purple. So apparently, according to the cooking gods of social media, blueberries are actually purple. So you win that one.
And what's really cool is that the one time that I'm right, it's recorded.
for history purposes. We'll get to the regular segments later. And without further ado, as promised, here is our interview.
Roll the tape.
Okay. As promised, today we have a special guest. I would like to welcome to the studio, also known as our living room, Corrine Moland. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Corrine and I have known each other for a long time. We've grown up in the same community and kind of went our own separate ways there for a while. Didn't really hang out in the same circles, but have come to be in the same circle now in the metaphysical world, doing things with our own craft. Corrine is proficient in Reiki healing, house cleansing, angel card readings, and I do believe also now psychic surgery.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, is it you that does the stones, or is that just Wayne's?
I also use a pendulum as well.
Okay.
I use the crystals and stones for Reiki and for personal use. Just may not know all the properties and everything that goes with the amount that there is, but yeah, there is definitely power in them stones.
So let's break it down and let's talk about what you do. Let's start with Reiki. So for anybody that doesn't know what Reiki is, what is Reiki?
Reiki is energy healing. After learning Reiki, the best way I know how to describe it is a massage for the soul.
Okay. And how long have you been doing Reiki?
I've been doing Reiki now for 4 years.
There's different levels
Yes.
of Reiki.
Yes.
So when somebody is learning Reiki, like is it 3 levels or?
Actually, there's 4.
There's 4.
There is level 1, which introduces you to Reiki and attunes you to the energy healing. Once you've been attuned once, it's something you will always have. Whether you continue to go on to the next levels or not, the Reiki energy will always be yours there at your disposal.
Okay.
Level 2 introduces you to some symbols that you can use to further facilitate the healing in somebody. Level 3 is actually the level that makes you the Reiki Master, because now you've sort of learned the techniques, all the techniques for doing Reiki, including the distant healing. Level 4 is actually your master/teacher level. Being someone who didn't really go much further than the high school level, I personally did all 4 levels to, say that I have accomplished something, and also to, help with my future, because if there's more people interested in the Reiki, then I can actually teach it.
So for somebody that starts out in Reiki and only has like a first level certification, what does that then enable them to do?
That enables them to do a Reiki healing on somebody,
Okay.
which they have been attuned to the healing energy, so they can invoke it to flow through them, to come out their hands, and then to heal somebody else. You can do that without necessarily, you don't need to know the symbols or whatever. Once you've been attuned to the Reiki healing energy once, that is something you will always have. So technically, you don't have to continue on per se. If you just wanted to learn Reiki, say, to do on your husband, I personally would recommend level 1. If you're somebody who, like me, chose to learn it to help my husband with his medical things, after the first level, I did it on my husband, but then I did it on other people as well. And therefore, I pursued all 4 levels to be able to do it for other people. So yeah, your symbols in that would be to facilitate for other people.
And so what made you choose to do Reiki as a practice? What do you think it was that drew you to that?
To be honest, I am not 100% sure. I had a reading done, and the lady who done my reading suggested that maybe I should try a Reiki session to see if it would help the situation that I was going through at the time. It took me 6 months to make that Reiki appointment. And when I did, I showed up at her home. She was doing it out of her home at the time. And I had no clue really what Reiki was. But for some reason, as I walked into her Reiki room, I turned and looked at her and said, "Can you teach me Reiki?" At that particular time, this lady didn't have her teachers. She was a master, but she didn't have her teacher's level. That didn't come about till a couple of years later. And that being said, yes, when she became the teacher, I became her student. So I was her student for all 4 levels.
And so from start to finish, now I know that courses are only offered in certain levels and at certain times, but from start to finish, how long did it take you to become a Reiki Master teacher?
For me, I jumped into every one of her first classes that she had, and that was a process for each level. So that started out March 22nd, 2020. It was the day of our shutdown for COVID that we got our first attunement. And the second one was in October of 2020. My third level wasn't until March of 2022. And then the teacher level was August 2022. So it took about 2.5 years. You can probably do it faster per se, but for me personally, I'm glad it took that long, because with each level, you need to do your own sort of thing. So me personally, I wouldn't have wanted to do level 3 this month and say 3 months later do another level.
You would recommend
I would recommend, yes, stretching it out a little bit. Might not have to be the 2 years, but yes, stretch it out a little bit.
Okay. And then what is the difference of somebody coming to you for Reiki and then distance Reiki?
Someone coming to me for Reiki is sort of like a spa day, we'll say. I play music, the lights are down, the candles are burning, there's music playing in the background, and we get you in a real relaxed sort of state. You lay on the bed for approximately an hour. Then with the distant Reiki, that I can actually do sitting in my home, and you could be anywhere doing anything, and I can send you distant Reiki, whether you sort of know it or not. An example of that is my mom. She'll call me up and say, "Oh, I just feel like a freight train hit me today. It could be storming. She has fibromyalgia. Oh, I just feel like a freight train hit me today. Could you send me some Reiki? I'll go in my room. I'll spend a half hour, send her the distant Reiki, text her when I'm done. I can call her an hour and a half to 2 hours later. This lady is out filling up her wood box. She's sweeping her floors. She's making bread. Or doing whatever. That's the change in her with the distant Reiki. 1 minute she's sort of down and out, and the next minute it's like she's flying high or something.
Have you come across anybody who is very skeptical when they walk in to have like a Reiki session? Are they skeptical? Like, how is it received?
You need to be a little bit open-minded, but to me it's just a fully relaxing thing that you can do. And, you know, Reiki is sort of a strange word. People's not really familiar with it, so just even that strangeness makes people feel, you know, that you might not be up to par. But I work with the love and light energy, and, you know, that's what I put into people, and they usually feel much lighter after they leave a session.
Now, I have actually had a session done by you. And one thing that I did notice that I do think it's very important to talk about is I know that you can do the session when you're lying on the bed, either with your eyes open or your eyes closed.
Right.
And I would recommend to people to close your eyes, because there's also a lot of imagery in your mind's eye that comes along with Reiki that is also very important to what you're going through. And I didn't know that until after I left, and the images that went through my mind's eye when I was having the session done. I came home and I researched, and then I was kind of like mind blown again, because the images that I had seen as I was relaxing and in that meditative state were very much pertaining to what I was going through at that time. So for anybody who's going to a Reiki session, if you're doing it, I would highly recommend just get relaxed and close your eyes and just put your trust in the practitioner at that point.
Yes.
I think you'll definitely get more benefits out of it that way. And you can discuss it with your practitioner, the images that you have seen, or you can wait and research it afterwards when you leave. The other thing that I've noticed that I'm seeing a lot more of in the spiritual fairs as well is there are a lot of vendors now who are selling products that have been infused with Reiki. So what is the benefit of buying a product that has been infused with Reiki?
Well, the Reiki energy is healing energy. So if a Reikiist is infusing something with Reiki energy, they're actually putting good energy into that stone for the purpose of good things. So therefore, the stone just may be amplified a bit more for, you know, the properties of what it is used for. For an example, if I put some Reiki energy into a rose quartz is to help with love and connecting and that. So that stone, when carried, will help you connect more with that sort of thing. And you can Reiki anything. I can Reiki food to make it more healthy. Your car engine is having problems. You can do the power symbol and send Reiki to it to try to help it start. And for distant Reiki, you could be here, or you could be in China or Venezuela or anywhere in the world. A Reikiist can send Reiki. So it's pretty cool.
So moving on to some other things that you do, you also do house cleansings. I don't particularly know a lot about house cleansing. I know a little bit about it, but not a lot. When would you recommend that a person has a house cleansing? We're not talking.
We're not talking Mr.
maid.
Clean. No, we're not talking Mr. Clean.
Yeah, she's not coming to clean your house that way.
No. I'm coming to do
a spiritual house cleansing.
A spiritual house cleansing, yes. And a spiritual house cleansing, for me, I personally use white candles in each of your rooms. That way, if there is somebody there who might have tried to pass on that hasn't, I give them the white light to go into. I'll go through and I'll smudge with the smudge bowl. I smudge every room. If it's real bad, then I do have some holy water that, some crosses can be made above door sills and stuff like that. A house cleansing, yes, is to get rid of negative energy. So, if you find that you're doing a lot more disputes in the home or things just ain't working out, sometimes just a good old cleansing will help alleviate all of that.
And would you recommend it, like if somebody was buying a new house before they moved in?
Oh, definitely. I would recommend that because you don't know what kind of energy, maybe residue or left behind from the other occupants. A house cleansing is also a step up from just saging, but it's not quite to where you need the blessing. Yeah, the blessing requires somebody who is trained to do the blessing, or a priest or something like that.
And you also do card readings as well. We're all a little bit proficient in a lot of areas once we get into this, because we're all we're sponges and we want to learn more and more and more about different aspects of the craft. So tell me about your angel card readings that you do.
Yes, they're angel cards. I don't work with a tarot deck, so I work with the oracle cards. And my granddaughter actually calls them Nanny's flying cards. Because usually when I'm shuffling, when I'm doing a reading, the cards will literally fly out of the deck. And, as we know, those are the ones that you really need to pay attention to, for sure. But, yeah, it seems that when I do it, a lot of cards go flying. So she dubbed them as Nanny's flying cards. Sort of thing. I have ones that you get what you need to know for the now and your near future, and then I have a deck for those who have crossed over for getting messages from them.
And then together your husband and yourself also do tumbled stones.
Yes.
Are those infused with Reiki before you sell them?
No, technically they're not. But if somebody requests it, then I can definitely infuse them with the Reiki energy right there, sort of on the spot.
And how long does it take for you from start to finish to tumble a stone?
Oh my, well, we started doing this when COVID hit, and we just went out and started collecting the rocks. Then we got the tumbler. Well, it turns out the tumbler takes 4 stages. So it's roughly a month from the start with a raw rock to the end of a polished rock. You need to do 4 different stages, 4 different grits and that. But it's amazing what we find here on our Nova Scotia beaches for
Have you
rocks.
come across anything that was nothing?
Well, yeah, you sort of do, because the rocks on the beach, you're not sure what you're going to get until you get home, and then you got to buy a saw to cut them open.
Yeah.
To see what's inside, because that's usually where the pretty lays. And yeah, we've found some amazing agates, blue lace agate, amethyst, some cycads, which is actually a 1,000,000-year-old tropical plant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just up here in Ross Creek. Can you imagine? Tropical plants in Ross Creek.
The world is a mysterious place.
And they're beautiful.
Just to go back to Reiki for 1 second, one question I did forget to ask is, if somebody was interested in learning Reiki, what should they look for in a teacher?
I say go with who you're sort of attracted to or drawn to. There is probably many Reiki teachers out there. So yeah, I would just say whoever you're comfortable with, and sort of who you can vibe with on a spiritual level.
Okay. So how can anybody listening to this podcast, if they wanted to have a Reiki session done or a house cleansing or come for a reading, I know that on the podcast I do announce the shows, and you and I tend to be at most of the same shows. You more so than I am, because there are some I can't attend this year. But how can they get hold of you otherwise if they wanted to come for a Reiki session? By the way, Corrine is located in Chester, Nova Scotia. I should put that out there so that, anybody from Halifax that's listening, or,
Yes.
So yeah, how can should they just come to the shows and grab a card, or?
Exactly. That's one good way of doing it. Come to the shows, grab a card. I do have a sign out by my road that has my phone number onto it for people driving by, and I do get a lot of that. Oh, I drove by and seen your sign and whatever. You can check me out on the website on my private one, Corrine Moland. I do have a spiritual house cleansing page up, but there's not many reviews on there because a lot of people don't want other people to know.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So yeah, and that's the other thing with Reiki. Everything that I do, whether it's Reiki or the house cleansings, card readings, it's all private and confidential. What happens in my room stays in my room. I don't use people's names. I can give examples of things that, happens, but no, you won't hear me talking about you. I tell everybody, feel free to talk about me.
Yeah, exactly.
and what I do, but even with people's permission, which quite a few people do give me permission, I still won't use their real name. It'll be a client or whatever.
Yeah.
Just for private and confidentiality.
Yeah, I think that's the way it is for most of us too. I know we as paranormal investigators, when we discuss certain things, unless it's like a really high profile case that's been in the public.
Yes.
But anything that's been done personally for anybody, we can discuss contents of each case that we've done, but we don't actually discuss who the client was or why we were contacted.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Anything else to add before we wrap up?
I do this other thing, psychic surgery.
Psychic surgery. This is actually something new. So I know absolutely nothing about psychic surgery. So you take the reins.
Psychic surgery, well, first of all, it doesn't require any stitches or anything like that. What I do is I ask you 3 things that you would like to let go of or change. Then I ask you to specifically think of the one that you want gone. And then after that, I ask you a series of questions, and depending on the answers are all given instinctively or with your own intuition. It is literally the first thing that comes out of your mouth after I ask the question. After the series of questions is asked, which will lead to the place of the blockage that's in you, I then sort of bring out some long fingers and go in there, and we bring all this stuff out. I dig it out of you. And once we've done all of that, I then put white light energy or Reiki energy back into where we hauled the stuff out, the negativity out. You don't want to leave the hole there, because then it'll just create more stuff, more negativity. So I always fill the void, shall we say, with the white light energy, or I'll give you 20 minutes of Reiki afterwards, just to cleanse your aura and cleanse your being. And I've done this on a few people with some really good results. They say that it really changed them in a way. One lady, said, oh my God, the triangle is gone, because that's how she described her thing that was in there. So, yeah, and she felt so much better, that this was gone. So.
And you have any shows coming up in the month of May or because this will be airing in May. So do you have any shows coming up for the month of May?
No, I don't have any. My next show coming up is going to be July the 6th at Chester Legion.
Okay. And I will be there as well. So if you're out there, come and visit us in Chester on that day, and we'll be talking about that in a couple of podcasts coming up as well. And also, if you're interested in having anything, if you want to reach out to Corrine, you can also reach out to me. Send me an email at themaritimewitch@gmail.com, and I can certainly put you in contact with Corrine if you're interested in any of those services.
I greatly appreciate that, Linda.
Not
Thank
a problem.
you.
Not a problem at all. It was great to have you. You're our very first interview. I'm so happy.
Oh, wow. Glad I didn't know that. That's pressure.
It's very exciting. It's kind of nice to go down a different road with the podcast now and bring some people in. And hopefully in the future we'll have some different people in to do some interviews, and we will have you back when you've learned the next new thing on your journey.
There you go. I would appreciate that. And again, congratulations on your podcast.
Well, thank you.
By the way,
Thank you. No sponsors yet, but we're still begging.
Yeah, but come on, season 2. That's wonderful.
I know. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Sean and I have a lot of fun. Sean is here. He's just lurking in the background because Corrine and I just kind of took over. So
that's what women do, isn't it?
It certainly is. And but again, thank you for being here, and I will see you probably before July 6th, I'm sure.
Yes,
but
I'm sure.
I'm sure our paths will cross before then. But again, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Linda, for having me. I really do.
It was my
appreciate
pleasure. It was my pleasure.
Great.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack.
Chester, Nova Scotia is a great place to visit and walk around. But when your feet get tired or your tummy starts to growl, well, that's when you should head into Imperfections Cafe on 54 Queen Street, Chester. Great coffee and treats, all-day breakfast, soups, and made-to-order sandwiches to tickle your taste buds. It's also a great place to catch up with friends and treat yourself. Imperfections Cafe, once again located at 54 Queen Street, Chester.
We promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go!
And once again, thank you to Corrine Moland for being our first ever guest. I look forward to having Corrine back for another episode in the future, as well as some other guests that I hope will be able to make it in as well.
That was an awesome interview. It
was. Hopefully the first of many as we move forward with the podcast.
That way you don't got to keep on talking to me.
I don't mind talking to you. I really
thank you.
So without further ado, let's move on to the May full moon.
Walk up the moon.
So the May full moon is on Thursday, May 23rd. It is the flower moon. Now, the flower moon is when nature is blooming. It's time for abundance and fertility. It's a time when there is romance and joy and fun. It's a great time to celebrate family and friends and partnerships and get out into nature. You can decorate with lily of the valley, roses, magnolias, apple blossoms. It is a time to work on personal growth and expanding your horizons. The best day for the full moon rituals or spells is actually on the Sunday. So again, 3 days during the full moon, that kind of doesn't really work. So make sure you do it Thursday, Friday, Saturday if you're going to do a full moon ritual. And having said that, we will now move on to the zodiac portion of the podcast.
This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
So the zodiac sign that we're going to cover this time around is Gemini. Gemini is from May 21st to June 21st. It is the third house of the zodiac. The element is air. It is ruled by Mercury. And symbol of the Gemini is the twins. Geminis are known to be curious, intellectual, intelligent, and witty. And on the downside, they can be irritable and inconsistent and impatient. Gemstones for Gemini are agates and garnet. Their lucky color is yellow, and their lucky numbers are 23 and 14, and the lucky day of the week is Wednesday. And now we will move on to the shout out section of the podcast. Pirate chicken. So, not a lot coming up for shout outs, but there are 2 events that I would like to bring to your attention. So on May 18th, if you are in the Digby area or going to be in the Digby area, there is their very first ever expo, Big Tides Mind, Body and Spirit Expo at the Digby Fire Department. It's 163 First Avenue, Digby, Nova Scotia, from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. and admission is by donation. And then on May 25th, there is the Spirits of the Bay. It is at the Estabrooks Community Hall. It is from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. And the address for that is 4408 St. Margaret's Bay Road. So if you're in those areas and, you got nothing to do that day, check them out. Especially, Digby, shout out to them because this is their very first expo ever, and, hope it's a great success for them and that this will be the first of many for them to do. So, and, go get some scallops or some clams or whatever. Digby's got some great seafood. So
what if you're like me, don't like seafood?
Well, I have to tell you, I went to Digby quite a few years ago now because it was pre-COVID. I went for a girls' weekend, and I'm not going to shout out the restaurant because there's a lot of restaurants on the waterfront there, so I'm not 100% sure what the name of it was. But I had the best fish and chips ever.
Fish and chips I like.
Yeah, so you would do well. You don't have to have like scallops or clams, but yeah, definitely seafood haven. So, if you're there, take it all in. So without further ado, we will bid you adieu until the next episode. Not sure if we will have another guest or if we're going to do a ghost story or what we're going to do yet. There's some things in the works, so stay tuned. And in the meantime, may the universe find you safe, happy, and healthy. Blessed be.